Okay, welcome to another edition of the 360 Sports Show. I am Andrew Pezzelli, joined by Christian Lawber. You can see the email address for the show right there on the screen, the 360sportshow at gmail.com. You can send us emails throughout the week, and also you can send us stuff live during the show. You can also comment on our Facebook live stream, which is right there up on the screen, and you can send us stuff through Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. We have a fantastic program ready for you today. Christian, first, are you on the line, Christian? We have to always do
I am.
Christian is on the line. Okay, great. So we have a fantastic show for you today. We already talked about how we're going to have our top 5 bingeable TV shows. We talked about that earlier in the week. We have ours that we'll get to at the end of the show. We want yours. If you haven't already sent us those, you can comment right now, or you can send those through email, top 5 bingeable TV shows, and we'll get to those at the end of the show. But first, on the show, special guest to the program, coming to you live on the line, Ryan, a.k.a. Doze, at Doze on Life. Doza, are you there?
I am here, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure this morning.
Awesome, and I'm grateful that we can make this all work. You know, we're already patching things together with Scotch tape and popsicle sticks, but we've got the three of us all on the line together, like we're here, and we are socially distancing ourselves, but yet putting out premium content. For those who don't know, we're just going to jump right into it, Ryan. Me and Ryan go a ways back. We played high school football together, and Ryan recently ate 43 McDonald's hamburgers in a single day. I'm going to repeat that. Ryan ate 43 McDonald's hamburgers in a single day. Before we get to like all the specifics of how you did that, what possessed you to want to do such a thing?
So the whole thing started off sort of by accident. On Barstool, it started off, so basically, if you're unfamiliar with Barstool Sports, you've been under a rock, I guess, the last 10 years, but I run a blog called dozeonlife.com, and on like March 2nd, I want to say, on Barstool Radio, there's this challenge put out to El Prez, Dave Portnoy, the founder of the company, for his 43rd birthday. He does all these food challenges, the pizza stuff and everything, the one bite, everyone knows the rules, and the Cheez-Its. He's done a bunch of food contests in the past, and this was something that was brought to his attention on like the radio show, and everyone was debating whether or not he could do it. And in a group chat with one of my friends, it kind of came up, and I was thinking about doing it as like basically a publicity stunt to gain eyes for my blog, to see if I could do it, hopefully have the Barstool people get some eyes on it. I got some eyes. It didn't go as viral as I was hoping, but it was a wild, wild day.
What were your rules for this? You know, were these doubles? Did you have cheese? Could you drink water? Like, what happens if like you puke? Did you have to start again and be like, nope, got to keep 43 burgers down? Like, what were your rules?
So it wasn't like, there weren't really any rules per se. It wasn't like a sanctioned food eating contest. It was more so to get like eyeballs on my blog and make some content, hopefully make some people laugh at the time. It was definitely, there were no rules, I would say. Like, I threw up multiple times. I'm not really supposed to say that, but it's been about 3 weeks and the cat's out of the bag. I threw up on camera multiple times while I was eating. That was probably one of the highlights of the event on Burger like 24 or 25. We were in my friend Sean's backyard going live, listening to Thunderstruck, and I was just rallying because around Burger 20, I started eating it like Kobayashi style. I was dumping it in water to make it go faster and easier. And that was a total game changer. Doing that is like why I was able to finish. It was disgusting. It was like eating straight like slop. But it's what got me through it, and by doing that, I was able to complete it. And there were no rules % of like the burger. I'm kind of like totally forgetting to answer that part. So they were single McDonald's patties, just ketchup. The whole reason I did that, that's what the challenge to Dave was. I tried to stay like on par with that as possible. The whole point was you had 12 hours to do it. I started at noon in March, that Saturday, so I think it was the 8th. Finished at a little before midnight. Banged out 10 in the first hour, 15-ish, slowed down, really putting up some numbers from like 5 to midnight, but it was a long day. And I feel like I've been rambling for a minute, so why don't you ask me something?
It's all good. Christian, go ahead.
Wait, so how do you prepare for something like this? Or did you not prepare? Did you just jump into it?
Oh, there was like little to no preparation at all, just like the actual day itself. I talked with it all started on that Tuesday, I think, of that week. So basically, on my blog, I've talked about I'm a pretty hefty guy. That picture you guys have of me is actually a decent one where I don't look like I'm a Vince Wilfork with flow. But basically, I've been doing these like shakes to try to lose weight, and they work. And I was in the process of like starting back up again because I the last time I did it, I ended it in December, right around my birthday, and I wanted to like enjoy my birthday and Christmas and be able to eat food and like be a human again. So I was like, I'm gonna start again like after football ends, but it kind of just I delay it 2 weeks. So I actually like had just started the shakes again that week, and on that Tuesday I had them for breakfast and we were talking, and I was like, I guess I'm not going to do them the rest of the week because if I did, that could have really caused some like medical damage. But I basically, by training the rest of the week, I just got like Chipotle every night to make sure my belly had nuts and lots of room. That was my big thing.
Okay.
So take us through, you kind of already did, but like give us like kind of the highlights of the day. Because I imagine, as you said, I was following along because it's just one of those things, like it sounds so insane. Like why, if you told me I was going to spend most of a day sitting, because I didn't have work that day, I'm going to be spending most of a day sitting, checking in Instagram periodically on somebody eating McDonald's food. I wouldn't have believed myself, but I was just totally drawn in. Like you said, it's a great, aside from maybe the health risk, it's a great idea to get some publicity. But like, what were the highlights for you of the day? Maybe give us like your top 5 moments of the day of completing this.
If I was going to go with my top 5, I would say, in no particular order, like just in general, the fact that so many people came out and actually supported it. Like my biggest concern was that it was just going to be me in my buddy's living room eating burgers, like with 2 of us in the background, and that would have sucked. It would have been less electric because the people and my friends that were there, like definitely, I fed off of their energy and like combating back and forth with them. It's way easier to be funny when like you're replying to someone than just going off the top of the dome. So just the fact that I had such a big crowd supporting me, I'd say at any point there was like at least 20 people for the majority of the day. And then we went to the bar. So that was probably number 1. I'd say going to Ocean Mist, again, just the crowd. We were actually at like the bar on the deck. Everybody was going nuts. There was at least 2 dozens of us like in the corner at Ocean Mist, and there's this old guy reading the paper just like in the middle of our crowd. Like we're literally huddled around him. It's on the video on my Instagram where I eat burgers 11 through 14. The guy is literally just doesn't care. He's there reading the paper in the middle of like a very windy Saturday, let me mind you. It wasn't like it was hard to read a paper outside, and he's got 20 drunk asshole kids just yelling at him, watching me eating burgers. That part was insane. I would say the first time I threw up on camera, that was just an electric moment. I threw up on a burger, then wiped it off with my water bottle, my handy NFL water bottle, and I just poured it off, ate the burger in stride. People definitely reacted to that, as you would expect. It was pretty gross, but it made for great content. What's that, 3 so far?
Keep going.
Yeah. I'd say we'll just go 4. And my last one of my favorite moments, other than finishing, I would say was burger number 7 when I got iced. That was a natural moment. My friends, what we did, we had all the burgers in this like hot plate bag, and I went to go grab burger number 7, and my friends were playing Hunger by Florence and the Machine, which is like one of my favorite bands. And I was jamming to that, and I opened the bag and I got iced. And while it was going on, I like poured the ice on my burger and just chugged it and chowed, and like everyone was going nuts. That was just like a really fun, like authentic, natural moment. That was probably like my personal favorite burger of the day.
How did that taste, actually? Just to follow up on that.
It really it was, you could barely tell. Like it was just pouring.
Okay.
It was like, it wasn't a big deal. It was more, but people reacted to it like it was. But it actually made it easier because it moistened it. That was the biggest problem. I thought. So what I did to try to make the burgers like not as boring on my palate, I used to watch a lot of Man vs. Food as a kid, and Adam Richman would always, as a kid, it was like 8 years ago, as like a 20-year-old.
We're all still kids at heart, Ryan. Keep the joy alive.
I'm mentally a child. Like I might be 28 on my birth certificate, but your boy is. I'm not even go down that road and get myself in trouble. But yeah, basically, and I totally forgot what I was saying. I need to get reeled back in.
How to eat the burgers? You said you were watching Man vs. Food.
Thank you. So like, I was trying to like switch it up, Adam Richman style. So I got some Chick-fil-A sauce and sriracha from Chick-fil-A to try to make it better, and that actually backfired because the sriracha was just too extreme to be eating like throughout the day. As much as I like it, like that would have been multiple trips to the bathroom on top of what we already had that just were unnecessary. But the burgers themselves were very, very dry. That was the hardest part. Like there wasn't any cheese on them. The challenge was just burgers, and it was disgusting. It was so dry. That's pouring burgers with any beverage on it made it better.
All right, that's fair. So when you do something like this, right, at what point do you just regret everything?
I would say there wasn't a lot of regrets until the next day, because while it was going on, it was like the adrenaline was getting me through it. Because, excuse me, when I think about it, like the pure mass of it, 43 burgers, like if you see that in one setting, it's a mountain more or less. And I still don't know how I did it. I was just so disgusted with myself the next day. It's like, I've done some serious Sunday NFL days where I can crush like 8,000 calories without even blinking an eye. But to get to that 10K mark, I don't think I've ever done that officially. So that was just, you look back at that and you're like, what am I doing? But
that's true. I didn't really ask you like what was the aftermath like. So like, was Satan making a playground of your body the next day?
The craziest part of this, and this is no word of a lie, because I don't eat healthy. Like, I'm not a guy that can cook for himself, so it's pretty much either shakes or like straight takeout. And I do a lot of like Mexican, so Taco Bell, Chipotle are my go-tos. When I have like a Chipotle burrito bowl, I will go to the bathroom 4 to 5 times in like the next 3 hours. These burgers, I went to the bathroom twice that day, and the next day I like felt fine. It was kind of disgusting how fine I felt, like to the point where I thought I should go to the hospital.
Yeah, like, something's not right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I was like, am I just numb and like I don't realize my body is about to shut down? Like it was a wild time.
So I want to give you Ryan. I don't know how much you know. I did some digging, and we have some facts for you. I actually, like I said, I was immersed in following along with this when it was happening. I kind of like I dove headfirst and I could probably still get even more lost into like the breaking down the numbers of this. So we're going to be throwing out a lot of numbers at everybody, but these are first we're going to give you the nutritional facts of eating 43 plain McDonald's burgers in a day. So here we go. First off, the big number is calories, 10,750 calories. If you go down total fat, 344 grams of fat, that is 529% of your daily requiring. 1,290 milligrams of cholesterol, that's 430 times your daily requiring.
That's my big worry.
20,640 milligrams of sodium, 860 times the amount of sodium you need in a day. 1,333 carbs, that's 440%. Protein, calcium, potassium, iron, those aren't as interesting.
Were they high? Like,
they were high. Protein, potassium, 4,042 milligrams.
How many bananas is that? Like at least 10.
Oh, that's true. That is true. I have to, maybe Christian, do the math on that. Find out how much potassium is in a single banana and effort that while we soldier on. Iron is 100.
Andrew, I'm not going to lie to you, sir. I haven't heard those numbers outside of the calories, and when you're getting into the like 700 times the daily value aspect, that's where it really is like a, oh my god situation. If I don't get this job, this could be you can't come back for this. I mean,
well, that's
look
so.
at me. I probably gained 10 pounds since I did this, and that's on the low end.
Yeah,
more like 20.
Yeah, we're gonna don't worry. I consulted some medical professionals too. We have that coming.
I can't wait to hear that. That might be when I hang up.
I was actually curious too. I would try to figure out like iron, 116 milligrams. I was like, how much like physical iron is that? Like, did you like actually pass like a rebar like the next day? Like, how much iron did you have in your body? But
yeah, could you make like a head of a golf club or something?
So, yeah, exactly. But what the other part of this, and we're gonna put this up on the screen for people now. So we already know that it's.
Let me.
Ooh, I'm gonna watch this in real time on my laptop.
We know that it's 10,000. Turn the volume down too, so we don't get.
Oh, it's on mute. I'm a pro, bro.
We don't want the loop. We don't want to open up the matrix here.
Hey, let me cut you off real quick. 9.5 bananas. 9.57. So you're in the range of 10 out of 10.
So there's really so basically, if you want to get like, I mean, because that's not a lot of bananas. Like, I mean, it is, but like to eat 9 bananas in a day, like that's how many?
Have you ever had 9 bananas in a day? I don't think I've had 9 bananas in my life.
But I could. How many bananas does the average monkey eat in a day? That's what we can find out.
You probably asked Joe Exotic. Cultural reference.
Yes. Oh, we did. So later in the show, we're going to do our top 5 bingeable TV shows. And we started this week before really Tiger King like blew up. And now I'm like, oh my God, do I have to totally redo? Should Tiger King just be this entire list?
Well, are you talking about bingeable like multiple times or just like you can't keep your eyes off? So I don't see myself ever watching Tiger King again. Maybe once, but like I don't ever really rewatch documentaries. But I could not. I finished it in 2 nights. So I agree with it.
It was both. So we said it with the criteria were shows that either like once you start you can't stop. It's 4 a.m. You know you should go to bed, but you hit next, or shows that you could watch for a prolonged period of time. So like I watch like right now because we're under quarantine. I'm trying to watch all of the original Law and Order from beginning to end, all 20 seasons. I could watch 18 episodes of Law and Order in a row. Like it's just so easy to just keep viewing. I don't have at a certain point. I'm just like, well, time for bed, because it's just a way of life now to watch Law and Order. Anyway, back to the burgers.
Back onto the bingeable shows real quick. So like before we got on the line, I was talking to Pez about how I barely slept last night. When I was up this morning, I was binging. You're familiar as a football guy with like the AFL NFL merger, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I could do probably like a 300-page dissertation on my knowledge of that. I was watching Full Color Football on YouTube, and I just wanted to give a brief, if we could do a moment of silence for Bob Kelso, the only professional football player to die in the Vietnam War. All right, we can go on.
Moment of silence.
All right. That was even longer. Wow, that was nice.
Yeah.
I messed up my own moment of silence. I was thinking like 2 or 3 seconds, but yeah.
Yeah. But so 10,750 calories are in 43 McDonald's hamburgers, and so we're gonna put on the screen now. This is how you can burn 43 McDonald's hamburgers. There's 5 options. And so if you want to swim, now this is you consume these 43 burgers and then you eat nothing else. You consume nothing else, and this is the activity you immediately have to do to burn that off. You could swim for 15 straight hours. You could jog for 21 hours. You could ride your bike for 1.2 days. You could walk straight for 2.1 days. Or you could sit your ass down and play Fortnite for 7.46 days without any further sustenance. And that would burn off 43 hamburgers.
See, that is definitely more dangerous than the burgers. That is when you see like those Asian kids streaming on like across the country, and they're just the people that will actually die from 7.5 days of video games. That is more dangerous than burgers.
Yeah, that's no sleep too. You have to factor in there's no sleep.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like, if you go 2.1 days of walking, 2.1 days of walking, by like halfway through that for like that part of the second day, you collapse.
Yeah, and swimming for 15 hours, that again, I don't think I've swam 15 hours collectively in my life. I'm a big, like, shallow end doggy paddle kind of guy. I'm not a strong swimmer. My friends know that. Hopefully the fans will see that someday, but This is some great data.
Yeah. So another fun thing we did. So this is how, for those of you watching live, you can see the graphic of how to burn 43 McDonald's hamburgers. We were also curious as to like other ways you could reach 10,750 calories, and so that is up on the screen now. And if you wanted to consume the same amount of calories that Ryan did, let's preface all of this, folks. Do not try this at home. This is.
I'm not going to say that. If people want to try, we're in America.
Not these, not the food.
Oh, true. Okay.
Not the food.
If you're gonna do a food challenge, you should do it right now since you're quarantined. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, but I would not advise. So here we go. You want to get 10,750 calories? You could consume 98 cans of Bud Light in a sitting, 108 glasses of red wine or 18 bottles, 95 slices of Kraft Singles cheese, which is 5.25 pounds of Kraft cheese. And Kraft cheese is not exactly the most natural selection.
Yeah, that's 95 pieces of plastic, more or less.
Yep. 1,380 Lay's potato chips, or 8.16 full family-sized bags. 59 plates of house salad with Italian dressing. Without the dressing, you'd have to eat 107 plates of salad. And lastly, 6,981 raisins, or 84 boxes of raisins, to reach the same amount of calories that you consumed, Ryan. Of those 6 options, do any of those seem feasible to you? You ate 43 hamburgers, so you've already done this. What appeals to you there? The raisins, maybe?
I'd say Bud Light's 98 is a big number.
You die.
Definitely couldn't do that in 12 hours, but of all these, I could see myself doing that. If I was a sad mom, I could do the wine, but I don't really like red wine to begin with. Salad and raisins do nothing for me. Raisins, I think, are one of the disgusting snacks on earth. And regular baked Lay's potato chips I like, but regular Lay's I'm not a huge fan of. So I'd say Bud Light is the way to go out of these 6.
I was actually, I don't know about you, Christian, when I was doing this, I was actually pretty stunned at, because in my mind I've thought about, okay, it's been 4th of July or Christmas or something like that, and I've had I know I've had X amount of booze, and then I had this amount to eat, but like you said too, Ryan, 10,000 calories is so much when you really start thinking about it. Well,
you think about it, it's over 5 times the daily value that a normal human's supposed to have on a 2,000 calorie a day diet.
Yeah.
So that's a work week of calories.
But I was surprised.
In a short amount of time.
Christian, Christian's a craft beer guy, so I was surprised you'd still how many craft beers with super high calorie you'd still have to drink 35 craft beers.
Oh yeah, way too much. Yeah, I think I'd rather do the burgers than the beer.
When I tell you guys this is probably going to hurt my own self, but it was not as hard as you would think, because it was the massive bread was the hardest part. Bread and burger patty, which is, as we all know, just that pink slime. So I had a lot of slime. I'm really more concerned about cancer down the line from eating all of that at one time.
So
that cannot be good to have in your body.
That's the next question. So did you consult any sort of medical professional before? Did you do any research? Were you concerned about, you kind of talked about wanting to prepare your stomach. How much of that were you aware of beforehand? Because we talked to some doctors, so I have those facts for you. But as far from your end beforehand, were you concerned? Did you talk to anybody? What were you aware of going into this?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't concerned. So as I referenced earlier with the shake diet I've done, if you do that, and if you're in ketosis, I'm going to put my scientist hat on real quick. If you're in ketosis and you eat a lot of calories in one setting, you can have a gallbladder attack, which I still don't know what a gallbladder is or does, but I know my grandma had one when I was a kid, a gallbladder attack, and it's not ideal. So I was definitely worried about that. But for the week leading up to it, I kind of just ate crap to begin with, so my body was in its natural state.
So what I did is I talked to two friends of mine who are doctors. They're MDs, licensed, and I explained what you did. And first off, I said, okay, first I wanted to know, I said, are there risks? And they said, yes, there's risks. I said, well, okay, so before we I got all the risks, but I asked them, like, what's the refractory period here? How often could I eat 43 burgers? My body recovers. Could I do it again and, like, not have, like, any long-term effects? And his response was just, you should never eat 43 burgers at once. So right off the bat, he's like, you shouldn't do this. But if you're going to do it, this is what he said. He's like, the number one risk, he said, was gastric rupture. And he wrote this out for me. He said, the stomach, it can comfortably hold between 1 and 1.5 liters of material. At 4 to 5 liters, you risk tearing the lining of your stomach or intestines. 43 burgers constitute 5.17 liters of material. This would require immediate medical attention. Now, I will say, Ryan, you already said you had to chuck a couple of times. So I'd say the positive thing is that at a certain point, your body is going to start rejecting the food, so you probably can't hold all 5.17
that happened around burger 17.
Yeah. So obviously that wasn't. This probably wasn't going to be a risk just because your body was like, screw this, we're getting this stuff out of here. But short-term risks of say trying to have that much food in your body at once. He said short-term risks: pancreatitis, kidney injury, and sepsis. Long-term risks, he just simply put death. Were you you said you were worried about a gallbladder attack. Now knowing that about gastric rupture, basically that you could have tore your stomach open and died. Would you do this again, or now would you err on the side of caution and tell people, please don't try and eat 43 burgers all at once?
I would still 1,000% do it again, because I was going after my dream. And while my dream was not to eat all these burgers, it was an avenue to potentially reach that. And you're going to die someday. And if I died doing this, I feel like it would only add clicks to my blog, and I would blow up post-mortem like an Emily Dickinson situation. And it was really a win-win situation. The worst part was that the burgers didn't taste that good. Normally when I binge eat, it's like pizza or Flips pretzels or oatmeal cream pies, like all things that are delicious. And as I've said many a time, the McDonald's plain cheeseburger is anything but.
Yeah. As far as your long-term effects of this, Ryan, from what my friend said, you really shouldn't be at risk for anything like cancer or health issues. Now, if you did this consistently, I would try and eat as healthy as you can for the next month, basically because of all that sodium and cholesterol and shit. Like, you just don't, you want to try and get that out of your system. But just doing this once, this isn't gonna, you're not gonna look like, some doctor's not gonna look back when you're in your 80s and be like, oh, well, you've got, liver disease because you ate 43 burgers when you were 28. You know what I mean? So luckily, as a one-off, there should be, he sent me tons. When I say people got involved in this, anytime I brought this up to somebody doing the research, they got really invested, and he went and looked for scholarly articles. He sent me things on binge eating and competitive eating, and as far as we can tell, this I think you'll appreciate this. No one else in the world has done what you did to try and people do competitive eating, but as far as what your specific goals were, as far as he could tell, no one's done that, and no one's had any medical complications. So I just said, there's not enough research on this. We need to do some research on this. There's not enough case studies.
There's not a lot of data out there. I'm sort of the guinea pig of eating for hire. You're
blazing a new frontier. You're boldly going where no one else has chosen to go before.
Can I tell you, I've been doing some history, independent research on the new frontier, so I'm glad you said that. Don't put me on the spot, though.
So at the end, did you hear from Barstool at all after you were trying to get their attention? Have you heard from Barstool? There was a whole thing going on to this. So by the way, for those of you who may be just joining us, this is our friend Ryan, aka Doze. He did the 43 hamburger challenge. He ate 43 burgers in a day. If you're tuning in late, definitely when this goes out as a podcast, you want to go back and listen to it. You can follow him at Doze on Life and follow his blog dozeonlife.com. Definitely worth the follow. Definitely worth the clicks. The hashtag Hire Dozo was used multiple times throughout this.
That is our official Doze on Life hashtag, sir.
So is Dozo getting hired? What have you heard from Barstool?
So it's not like an immediate like, hey, we saw this, we want you. That was my number one goal. I realized that wasn't. Sorry, you can hear my stomach growling. I might have to have a few burgers soon. But basically, I reached out to a few people that work for Barstool. I would tag them in the posts, and a producer that works there, Brendan Clancy, he followed me on Instagram and Twitter to like follow throughout the whole thing, and he retweeted a couple videos, and so like my eyes were on that. I reached out to him and never heard anything back, and then eventually he unfollowed my Instagram. So I was like, oh crap, like did I blow it? Am I like not good? But his brother KFC, who is like one of the like four horsemen of Barstool, like the original, like after Prez, like at the first wave and expansion, he was like one of the two New York guys, and he reached out because a friend that I have who was there the whole time, she's has like a online friendship with him, and he saw what I was doing and was really excited. I didn't say we were really excited, but he was aware. And on Sunday, he was doing I'm totally blanking on the word where you can pay to have like a celebrity, a cameo. He was doing a cameo to raise money for a bar in New York during the coronavirus, since they were closed and trying to pay employees. And one of my friends did a cameo for him to like reach out to me about the burgers, and then I did one. So I got two cameos from him talking about it. He was basically just saying to use this time to make content, which is what I've been doing since I'm out of work right now with the whole coronavirus situation. I've been just writing and making videos on my phone, living the dream.
But yeah, it's kind of the way you have to do it. But so you did this challenge, you completed it, you're kind of in, I don't want to say talks, but you're kind of, you're getting recognized anyway, making connections. So where do you go from here? What can you do? Papa John's pizza in 30 days? Do you do some KFC, that donut, 2 donuts and fried chicken sandwiches in a day? Where do you go from here?
So I don't think I'll be doing any more like mass food challenges in the foreseeable future. I'm actually going to start a new cycle of like my shake diet tomorrow to try to lose this burger weight and get back on track. I have a few things in the works. I know we can't say the F word on this podcast, but can we reference things that may not be illegal throughout the United States?
Are we speaking about a friend named Mary?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so for 420, I mean, this was a song I was planning on doing. I'm still going to do it. I was going to do it as a collab with my friend Hedge, who's a rapper in Rhode Island. If you have a SoundCloud, I'm going to plug him real quick. Hedge88. I'm not going to say he has the best voice, but there's not a lot of voices in rap right now that I think are awesome, and I still think he can make it because he's a great writer. Basically, I have a parody song in the works. Are you guys David Bowie fans at all or familiar with his catalog?
Familiar, yeah.
All right, so Starman, I wrote a parody, Stone Man, that I'm going to release on 420. Okay. That's my next big project. So no food in the works. That's my next big thing. And then just more videos on my Instagram with sports stuff.
I think that's a wise choice to stay away from the food for a bit, Now, actually, just a quick follow-up on top of that. Would you say you felt worse physically or mentally after that?
That's a great question. Mentally, I was on top of the world because I had a goal and I achieved it. And whenever it's like a great thing in human psychology, just to like achieve a goal. And I don't know why this goal meant so much to me, but the fact that I did it and having the support behind me, the emotional and mental state, I was fine. Physically, the actual, like, the bathroom situation, a lot of time on the porcelain, that was never fun. And I'd say the acid reflux wasn't great, but I totally lost where we were right there.
Consumed 55 tablets of Tums.
You know what? I didn't have a single Tum during the thing. I started off, I was going to pre-Tum, but then we did a little research and found out that would... I wouldn't say research. My friend's brother, who is in like the medical field, he said that doing that would actually do more harm than good, because I guess what Tums does to make it work, a little behind the science situation, when it has your stomach acid, I guess, not be as active, it makes actually eating the burgers harder. So it would have made my challenge harder. So I didn't have any Tums the entire day. Normally I'd crush like 8 like Tic Tacs, but
when you were talking about the difference between physically and mentally, Ryan, when I was talking to my medical friend, the doctor, about, like, you know, the effects of this, he essentially described it. He's like, he's like, I'm just gonna say, like, non-medically, he's like, just from my own perspective, like, eating food, he's like, I enjoy eating food. Plain burgers, like, there's no flavor, as you said. Like, essentially, he's like, when I get like drunk, if I consume like 3,000 calories of like beer, at least I'm drunk, I'm having a good time, I'm enjoying myself. Like, this pretty much was
this
just
was a job,
this was just torture. I mean, you couldn't stop. You had to reach that goal. So essentially, there wasn't as much enjoyment outside of the adrenaline of reaching it. It was torture. That's he described it in his mind. He saw it as torture. Would you agree with that or no?
I would say, outside of people like being really supportive and pumping my tires, making me feel like a great little boy throughout the day, like that part of it was my biggest fear, because I was like, if I get to like 36 burgers and just can't go any further, I'm going to look like the biggest wimp. And just like, you're so close, because I was thinking about it. I Uber, and they have these things called quests, basically, where it's like, if you hit enough rides, you get a bonus. And I'll have like a weekend where I need to do 60 rides, and it will seem pretty daunting. But then once you get to like 20, it's like, we're already a third there. So once that happened, I could like see the light at the end of the tunnel, burger wise. But when you're at like 14 burgers and that, whatever the math is, like 29 to go, it's like, oh my God, how am I going to
mental toughness? It requires mental toughness.
I would say my mental toughness is like one of my, if you were going to make me as like a human Madden attribute rating, my mental toughness with situations like this, one of my highest ratings, probably like a 40.
Right now, Ryan, would you rather eat 43 hamburgers or do 100 broad jump vertical leaps?
Oh my God, from football, I'd have to do the 100 broad jumps. I think I would always cheat on those, and like, those are the worst, man. That's just, I mean, we can say his last name. That's just Foss's coaching at its finest, doing like things that, oh man, don't get me started. If we go down the high school football rabbit hole, Pez, this podcast is going to be 9 hours now. You don't want.
So we'll wrap this up. So Ryan, he joined us on the show today to talk about his 43 burger challenge. Follow him at DozOnLife. Follow his blog, dozonlife.com. You can send us questions to the show, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com. Use our handle there on the screen at 360 Sports Show. To send us questions or to interact. You can also comment on the live stream if you want to talk to Ryan or to us throughout the broadcast. The show is available afterwards as a podcast, the 360 Sports Show. You can find it on pretty much any podcast app out there, iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, you name it, we are there. Ryan, do you have time to stick around? We're going to actually get into some sports content if you're interested.
Pez, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. I have nothing but time.
We all have time. Can
I really quickly interrupt you?
Yeah,
I have, since we're about to talk sports, I'm looking at twitter.com right now, and the trending is Fenway Park. People are bringing up the idea of, if baseball is closed, to tear down Fenway and use this year to make a new stadium. that is a very interesting topic, in my opinion.
I think
one that I kind of support.
I think. Well, so yeah, I mean, it's one of the worst. Yeah, we'll just jump. We'll jump off. We'll jump into sports. We'll jump right into that. Fenway Park. Yes, is it one of the worst viewing stadiums out there? Like, if you're a fan and you're going to a game, those seats are terrible. You have obstructed views. There's just a million things wrong with that ballpark. Will they ever actually tear that park down? No. Does anybody care that much about baseball to care about them tearing down the stadium and building a new one? I'd say more people care about keeping Fenway Park as is than they actually do about baseball. How about that?
I would say you're not far off with the history part of it. I don't want to see it happen, even though I'm kind of in a tip with the Red Sox right now. My fandom is on pause because of the whole Mookie Betts situation. But I think you kind of have to. People will get over the nostalgia in a couple years when they can actually sit and not be obstructed by a pole or sit in a seat that's more than 18 inches. And have you been to the new Yankee Stadium?
I haven't.
The new Yankee Stadium, as much as I hate everything that organization stands for, that place is sick. You can go get food and see the game the entire time with the open concourse, and it's like a Roman Colosseum with how big it is and everything that goes on. But I think it's a very interesting topic, because this is just an unprecedented time in sports where we're almost going to have a reset on life, and it'd be pretty interesting to see if Fenway was a victim of the coronavirus. That's just funny in itself to think about. But
Christian?
Yeah, I don't think Fenway's going anywhere. It's one of those things that it makes sense to talk about it right now for sure. But so hopefully sports will be back at some point here in the foreseeable future. But Fenway, I don't think will ever be ripped down. I mean, maybe a new stadium, but that's kind of Wrigley Field, same thing. It's all historic, and even if it's not the greatest viewing pleasure, it's still a cool experience to go to.
I'd say if it didn't cost you $20 to get a hot dog and a beer, people wouldn't care about an obstructed view. That's just my opinion.
I'm a big fan of keeping it as a museum. I don't know if you could do a partial demolition and keep part of the history, because I agree it's a relic. That shouldn't be gone. And there are some stadiums that they stay up and don't get knocked down. But just with Boston and the space, I don't know how.
No, you can't do that. Not in Boston.
That'd be kind of big swag, though, if the Red Sox did that.
Well, the only way they could, say, keep that open and use it as some sort of auxiliary facility, you let something else play in there from time to time, and you have it as a museum, is if you build a new stadium where they were going to build the Olympic Stadium, if Boston had the Olympics down by the water. But from what I hear, the rumors I heard, is that what was going to happen was if the Olympics came to Boston, they were going to build a stadium, and it was going to be the Patriots' new stadium, and the Patriots would move to Boston, and the Revs would stay in Foxborough, and they would just scale down Gillette Stadium. But obviously the Olympics are postponed this year and aren't coming to Boston anytime soon. So that's not going to happen. But you still have the land and the footprint if you wanted to build a stadium. There's talks of putting just a straight-up soccer stadium there so the Revs can get out of Foxborough, since it looks like the Patriots are going to stay in Foxborough now. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
It's soccer. You go first.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think the Olympics in Boston would be horrible with traffic and the amount of people in itself. But I think, the Patriots, I don't think are going anywhere, even though Foxborough is way the hell out there. But I don't know. I mean, if the Revs get their own stadium, that's
25 minutes away. Spoken like a true Rhode Islander, Christian. It's way out there.
That is very commonplace in the NFL now too, where teams don't actually play in their market per se. Foxborough, yeah, it's not in Boston, and they're the New England Patriots, but everyone knows they're the Boston Patriots, and they're Boston and New England's team. And the Jets play in New Jersey. Levi Stadium's 45 minutes down the road. I don't think that's the big deal. But if soccer is ever going to be something in New England, I definitely think they need a smaller soccer specific stadium in a city. I think Foxborough, for soccer is the biggest mistake. It needs to be in Providence or Hartford or Boston where it's a more like ethnically diverse place where soccer would thrive. That's why you see in Portland, soccer is huge, and in Kansas City, their team is huge. Nobody really cares in Foxborough about the Revs except my one friend Matt.
Yeah, because nobody wants to hop on the highway to get there. Now, if you could just walk downtown and go to a game, that's different. I like the idea of Providence because you could, the Paw Sox unfortunately are leaving, but they'll have an area where you could build a soccer stadium. I've heard that's a possibility of moving the Revs also to Providence. Also, a weird little thing. I was actually looking. I didn't even think about this until just now. If say we don't have a baseball season, if there's no minor league season, is that just it? Do the Paw Sox get an extra season to be in Rhode Island, or are they just up and gone? And
that's crazy to think about. No, they're just gone.
They're gone. Yeah, the contract.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing is the lease and the contracts. And the other stadium, I would assume, would definitely be done by then, especially if I don't know.
So I missed my chance. I was going to go to a ton of Paw Sox games this summer, just as because it was going to be the last time, even though I hadn't been in a couple of years. That's crazy.
Well, we don't know. They could still come back.
That would not happen. But when's the last time you've been to a Paw Sox game? Because I went last year for the first time in probably 5 years, and that stadium is straight out of 1972. It is insane how poor and run down it is. They didn't even have the nets behind, how baseball, the nets, they've expanded almost too far from foul pole to foul pole. It didn't even go from back, the left side of the batter's box to the right. It was probably 40 feet. It was insane. It was so dangerous. Somebody almost got hit when I was there. And they were finally going to change it this year. And typical Rhode Island, they'll probably be mad if they spend the money on the net and then the team's not there. It is insane that they're leaving. That is such a black eye on the state.
Yeah. Wow. Transitioning, so one of our big topics, obviously everyone around New England, but the sports world as a whole, we had nothing to talk about except coronavirus, and then Tom Brady decides to leave New England, and that kind of exploded at least some news in the sports world. We covered it pretty in depth last week for myself and for Christian, but Ryan, I want to get your opinion on Tom Brady leaving, and then between all of us, maybe our leftover and final thoughts on Tom Brady joining the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yuck.
It just, and I don't I hyperbolize a lot, and I'm a joker per se. That's my whole thing, and I'm going to get serious right now. This is one of the biggest and worst things that have happened in the history of New England and Massachusetts, and just in life in general. The fact that it got to this is just one of the saddest things of, I would say, really the structure of power and business in America, where they weren't you think of all the success these guys had, and ego at the end of the day is what drew it apart. And I think Brady, people are blaming him because he ultimately is the one that pulled the plug and left. But to me, it's just he took that abuse from the Patriot way for so many years and spewed the company line and took the pay cuts, and it's late in his career and they aren't going to build a team around him the way that he wants. You look at what the Saints are doing with Drew Brees, and they're going all in offensively. He has so many toys and weapons. They put a first round tender on Taysom Hill, who plays 15 plays a game. And it's just, when they caught Antonio Brown, I get it, people don't like what he's all about or whatever. That's a discussion for another day. But when that happened, you could tell Brady was just I felt like a slap in the face to him that they took that away from him.
Yeah, and but did Belichick take that away? I mean, we said this last week. We talked about, somebody asked us if Belichick was responsible for the poor construction of the team. And when you
he's the GM, so I would say yes.
Sure, but I mean, all right, if you want to go legally, if you want to look technically, yes, he had to cut. He's the one.
De facto GM. He doesn't have the title per se, but he makes the decision.
Sure, but was it his decision or was it Bob Kraft's decision to get rid of Antonio Brown?
Oh, with that, okay, sure. If that's what you want, if you want to say Bob Kraft made the pull with that, that could potentially be what you're saying. But I thought you meant more so with the whole roster.
Do you think Belichick wanted Rob Gronkowski on the football team last year, or no?
You mean if he could have had Gronk, would he want him?
Yes.
I would say yes, but then I also think Belichick is such a crazy dude that he gets off on. I think part of it is being able to win with like the vagabond group of dudes he has most of the time, where it's like, who's the second leading receiver on these teams? And it's Danny Amendola some years, and it's with like 300 yards, and it's just not right. The fact that Brady is going to play, and the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like historically a bottom like third
worst team by winning percentage in NFL history.
Yeah, they had 14 straight losing seasons after like the Doug Williams years until like Warren Sapp, and they've had 6. The crazy thing about the Pats, and like I could go on for years about the Patriots and this whole 20-year run of playoff wins. The Buccaneers have 6 playoff wins in their franchise history. 3 of them came in 2002, and then they went to a conference championship game in '99 and '79, and the playoffs are different in the '70s. So like they've literally had 3 runs at it, and then they made the playoffs a couple times with Gruden afterwards, but they always went one and done. Super Bowl 37 is their last playoff win. And the Patriots, they have 6 playoff wins in like the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, you could do the math real quick. It's 3 to win a Super Bowl. So
they have 6 Super Bowls just total.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy and that's why it's like, I don't think this run of like 20 years will ever happen again in the NFL. It was the perfect storm with like what Brady, how they rode the defense early, and then everything he did with the contracts. But you look at the Patriots pre-2001 in the annals of NFL lore, like they went to 2 Super Bowls, but they didn't win either, and like they weren't really close games, and they
were the Buccaneers.
They were one of those lowly franchises that were like disrespected, and they almost moved to St. Louis. A lot of Patriots fans don't realize that if Bob Kraft didn't buy the team, they were going to be the St. Louis Stallions, and there wouldn't be football in New England. And you think about it for people our age, like, you would have just not even realized it because you would have been so young. Yeah. And it's a crazy life to think about how different all of our lives would be if the Patriots never existed. And the whole argument about sports and how they matter in life, like the Patriots and Tom Brady, like they helped like my relationships with like my friends and family and like bonding over that, and some of the biggest and best moments of my life and some of the worst. And that's what's so amazing about this run, and the documentaries that are going to come out someday are going to be insane, because you think about it, 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, a 10-year drought. Like people forget about that now because of 3 Super Bowls in 5 seasons, but those were some heartbreaking close calls, and like to be on that close for 10 years, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was never going to happen. After that Chiefs game, that was like my breaking point, and I was like, I can't believe this. And then we all know what happened that year, but it is such an amazing run in sports history, and we really will never see anything like it. And the fact that he's not going to finish his career as a Patriot is such a shame. And Joe Montana, when he's saying it, because he had the same thing happen to him, except his situation was different.
He didn't have much of a choice. Joe did.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it's not like the Patriots did this when they had Garoppolo. Like, what is going to happen now? Like, and that's the thing too. Like, people want to give Belichick all this praise. Like, he's 1,000,000% the greatest coach in NFL history. I think he's surpassed Lombardi just from staying alive and coaching long. Like, it's not fair, but it's just a fact, like what he's accomplished. But as a GM and a builder of teams, like he has had some huge swings and misses in the draft, and he has not drafted well. Like Brady and Edelman, obviously, like that covers up a lot of mistakes. But when you look at these names, you go on Wikipedia and you look at these draft classes, and it's like, who are these guys that they're taking? And then you look at the way their team's constructed now, it's like, I'm very interested to see what they do this year.
Well, I look at it like I think starting, like, I think 3 years ago we set on a track where this was inevitable, because they were caught in a zero-win proposition this year, because they wanted to keep Brady. But Brady also wants to get paid. But if you pay Tom, you can't put a team around him to win. And if you can't put a team around him to...
Like, he didn't get paid. Like, it's not like he left for some crazy contract.
No, but they so that's like about a month and a half ago now on the podcast, one of our first episodes, I did like a whole breakdown of their cap, and they barely had enough space to retain, say, their own free agents, let alone pay Tom, say, $25 million, which is what he got paid this year. Now, if you wanted to say...
They were cap hell, I knew that.
If you wanted to say pay him a lot of money, but spread it out over like 5 years and have it be this like dummy contract, the way he just signed, what would happen is you would take on this massive cap hit at the end. Like, say you sign Brady to a 2-year deal that's really a 5-year deal that's really a 2-year deal, and you just have him take the cap hit all at the end. You basically wouldn't even be able to field a team once that all came home to roost. So I think the only way you kept with the situation they were in, the only way Brady would fit on this team and you build a team around him this year, because I think Rob Gronkowski screwed them by retiring last year, retiring late, which enabled them to not.
Yeah, that ruined a lot, and then they just didn't replace him.
Yeah, it was impossible to replace him. And I think just the way the team was going to be built this year, you couldn't keep Brady for a high number and field a team. And I think they both kind of had this, like, we've always wanted to know what the other one could do without the other. I honestly think Brady's at peace. I think Bill's at peace. It's really Bob Kraft's the one who's like, crap, like, how the hell did we let this happen?
Well, it's good. You think about on a pure business standpoint,
but I think it was inevitable. Just the way they were going, and they invested capital in the offense and with draft picks and trying to sign guys. It just, with the numbers you had to work with, you started having to go to guys like Antonio Brown for nothing off the scrap heap. Like, eventually it was going to be. It's what happens to all these teams, but it usually happens in a 3-5 year window. Is you have to like make choices on guys and you get diminishing returns. It just took 20 years for Belichick and Brady to reach that point.
Yeah, and like you say, with how long this run was, like, if it's going to be like an ugly, like 2-14 year or whatever, like, I think we could handle it. Like, it's been such unprecedented success. Like, large numbers, you got to have a little balance. But it's just going to be crazy. Like, 8 years in a row with the AFC Championship game. Like, we all know the stats, but it's literally going to be like a different lifestyle with Tom Brady not on the Patriots.
I mean, I've said from the beginning, I think it's time for him to be gone, and I just.
So you're like the contrarian, huh?
I mean, I think it's time for both sides to move on. I don't think it's gonna. If you're gonna tell me they're gonna bring Brady back, it's gonna be like last year. Then what's the point? You just move on to the future. And if Stidham's the guy, then great. If not, you draft a guy and you kind of move forward with what you have. I think. I would not blame Bill for the roster moves per se. I mean, he drafted some guys last year that were okay, but he had a stacked roster on defense, and unfortunately they were well overrated. But the offensive side, he got Brady's guy in Sanu for a second-round pick. He got hurt. Antonio Brown's an a-hole, so he naturally got kicked off every team and is out of the league. He got a bunch of offensive linemen who retired on him before the year started. Gronkowski handcuffed him, and at that point, it's like, what do you have left, and what moves can you do that late? They couldn't replace the tight end, which really, really hurt. And I don't know. I think a lot of people now are taking the side of Brady, where, he left because of money and because they didn't build the team around him, which I just think is untrue. I just think, Bill is kind of he's not the easiest guy to work for, and he was the first to admit that in one of those do your job specials that they had after the Super Bowl run. And I just think Brady was tired of it, and Bill was ready to move on. But I think the biggest thing is Brady wanted to go out on his own terms. He didn't want to be one of these guys that was cut, released. He wanted to make his own decision, so he did that. And I'm not in a spot where I'm like, they needed to keep him one more year. No, I just think after 20 years, that's a long time. It's just time. So sometimes you just got to move on.
Christian, do you want to see Brady succeed in Tampa, or will you be gleefully happy if Brady has a culture shock and it's like, wow, I guess, other coaches aren't as good, and, I don't have the greatest coach of all time to, like, bounce ideas off of, and my team is not a team that's, like, prepared for each week, and we don't really have a game plan, and, yay, it's loosey-goosey and happy and fun, and we're playing football in Tampa, but that edge that he had in New England with a team that was singularly focused isn't there anymore. Are you going to be like... are you rooting? I kind of in the back of my mind think it's not going to be all sunshine and roses for him down there because of what he's been used to, and maybe you don't realize how good. Like, oh wow, things aren't maybe like as fun, but holy crap, like we could win every single game and win the Super Bowl every year. I'm interested to see what it's like. Are you kind of rooting for it to go against Brady down in Tampa, or are you rooting for Brady to win just as much as you are the Patriots?
No, I mean, I'll still pay attention to what Brady is doing. Like, I don't hate Brady or anything, but if you're going to ask me, would I rather have Belichick or Brady for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I'm going to pick Bill every time. And I want him building the next team, picking the next guy. I want all of that. But, Brady in Tampa is kind of gross. The more I've thought about it, it's just like, this franchise freaking blows. And he went, and he felt he had to go there to get away, which kind of sucks. I'll still pay attention and kind of root for him on the side as a sidecar. But, if he doesn't do well, I mean, he kind of did it to himself. He picked the spot. He got his money. There's a bunch of weapons around him. So it's gonna be interesting to see how he and Arians go off of each other. Because, Belichick was mainly your defensive guy. But he also, they had their weekly meetings for a long stretch of time. Maybe not near the end here, but it's going to be interesting to see. Does Brady just want to go out in the parking lot and have a beer with Bruce after the games and be happy and have fun and go 8-8 or whatever it's going to be? I don't know. We'll see. But I don't hope he fails and craps out. If he can get some amount of success, then good for him.
Yeah. If you guys have questions and want to email the show, you can email us at the 360sportshow@gmail.com. You can also hit us up through Instagram and Twitter at 360sportshow. If you're listening live, you can comment your sports questions on the live stream. Anything in general for us. We're open books right now amid this coronavirus crisis because obviously there's not as much sports content to talk about. So we're pretty much open for all business. We will later in the show in a short bit here be doing our top 5 bingeable television shows. We already had a whole bunch of people send in their top 5. The criteria were shows that either once you start, you couldn't stop. So, it's 4 a.m., you should go to bed, but you just hit next because you need to know what happens next. Or shows that you just can continually watch and watch and watch and watch and watch and never get old. For me, that is Law & Order is one of those such shows. So some people submitted those as well. We're also taking ideas for other top 5 lists. People sent those in throughout the week, so we do have a pretty good list now to pull from. But if you have an idea for a top 5 you want to see us do, it could be culture related, it could be food related, it could be sports related as well. Anything top 5. If you have an idea you want for us to do, send it our way, and we'll add it to our wheel. We spin the wheel every Tuesday to find out which top 5 we're going to be doing. Last couple of sports leftovers. I've seen a number of people talk about this week, and me personally working in the collegiate sports world, I know we're all concerned about it. The NCAA lost 62% of its revenue by having to cancel the winter championships and the spring championships. All NCAA sports are just canceled. They're not even postponed the way professional sports are. How optimistic are you guys that we'll even have sports, collegiate sports, in the fall? And what's going to be the fallout of that? I mean, are we looking at a world where sports as a whole just is completely different? What if we can't finish the NBA and NHL seasons? What if things are still on pause or canceled come the fall? Do we have to, is as far as live sports content, are we looking at having to watch guys who are tested negative and in quarantine play 3-on-3 basketball somewhere in Las Vegas as part of the way you play threes in NHL or Superstar KO on Madden? Is that where we're headed, where guys who are not sick and in quarantine basically form their own little squads, and that's all we have for sports entertainment for the next year and a half? What do you guys think?
I'll let you go ahead. You go ahead, Ryan.
Okay, so really quickly before I go from that, I want to have a quick counterpoint on the whole Tom Brady thing. Mohamed Sanu for a second-round pick was a horrible trade. That should not go for your
That's the guy Brady wanted.
I've been steaming on that. I blogged about that, dude.
Brady wanted him.
Yeah, Brady wanted that guy. So
are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, I sound so dumb now, but still, a second-round pick for Sanu was disgusting. But with the whole sports thing, I personally am way more of a football and baseball guy, and honestly, the whole Mookie Betts thing has taken the wind out of my sails with baseball right now. So I'm like, if baseball doesn't happen right now, this is kind of
it's very bad for baseball right now. Baseball was on with the cheating and everything else happening. Baseball is looking at maybe just like, hey, season's canceled, and you know what? Nobody cares anymore, so we're dead.
Baseball, and the fact that I'm turning my back on baseball is a bad sign, because I have been beating the baseball drum for literally the last 15 years, and I love the game. Like, I love the strategy that goes into it. People that think it's too slow and boring, I think, are like not as mentally stimulated and intelligent as others that can appreciate what playoff baseball and all that stuff. But at the same time, I understand the time commitment, and that's the big thing. Football is king. It's a one-day-a-week thing for the most part on Sunday, and then a couple primetime games. But to be a baseball fan is like a full-time job, and if you have a family and a real job, like it's not possible to know what's going on every single night. And I think this whole coronavirus thing, in a weird way, like it sucks. So many people are dying, and like it's ruining people's lives. But at the same point, if we can have like some positive come from this, and I think it might be like a reset button on society if we see what's going on with the way we're treating people with healthcare and the stimulus and student loans. So I'm thinking, like, if sports have to take a little break and there's no, like, LeBron doesn't get to win his ring this year, like, that's a good thing in my eyes. So I don't know. I think it stinks for the kids in college. That's what really bums me out when you see the stories like I can't even say his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Obi Toppin.
Yeah, the fact that he isn't, like, the fact that I think it's such like a lame thing to say that we're being robbed of him playing in the finals or whatever.
Or a team like PC that got hot and like could have made a run.
Like, a team like Dayton, this type of season for them, you're not going to have that every year. It's not like Duke can deal with like not having this year. Dayton this season, I know they made the Elite Eight as an 11 seed in like 2014, but this is a generational year that they're not going to have. And I think about that girl at Oregon that everyone that like was friends with Kobe, that everyone's been all up her butt. Like, that girl, that stinks for her and everybody. I feel bad for them. That's who I really feel bad for. These businesses that are losing money, NCAA, I hope they lose. I know you work for them, but like, the way that they're run, like, boo-hoo, I'm not going to shed a tear that they're losing money. But the kids, I feel my heart breaks for them.
Yeah, oh, no, it's 100% about the athletes, because, like you said, you can't say you were allowed to bring your whole team back and everybody wants to come back. It doesn't mean, so for spring sports, it's not as big a deal because they barely even scratch the surface of their seasons. But for any teams that were in like winter championships, playoffs or national tournaments, even if you were allowed to bring everybody back, you can't recapture what you had that year. It's just impossible.
Oh, for sure. It's gone, and it just sucks. And it's like, life isn't fair, like, dead ass. Like, I don't know what else you can say. Like, there's nothing. These kids are never going to get it back. And I think about, like, I had a crappy senior year at football, and that eats away at me, like, to this day. And it's like, to have these kids, like, I think about it, like, to be on that Dayton team, man, and like, you have this Final Four buzz and then not have a chance. That just sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Christian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely about the athletes. The NCAA can screw. I mean, they're horribly run anyway, so it's definitely more about the athletes than anything else, and it definitely is unfortunate. I mean, just like you mentioned, Dayton is one of those teams that's kind of like, man, they got all the buzz around them this year. They're playing really well, and then it just ends, which kind of sucks. But it's just, we're not a politics show, but, the landscape politically and compliance-wise, I don't think this is going to be over anytime soon, just based on what I've seen. So, in my opinion, not necessarily for college. I mean, it definitely sucks for college because you can't get those years back. I think positively on, pro sports, the MLB could get something out of this if they run with it. Instead of, I still hear Manfred saying stuff like, our fans want 9 innings and 162, which is just being blind to the outside. And I just think sports like this, like the MLB here has a chance to like cut their season down and experiment if and when it does come back. and really take a chance on, well, we're going to tell our fans we have to do this because of the coronavirus. So you could get something out of it if you're MLB and make your sport more interesting. Instead, it seems like they're not going to do anything in terms of that. So it's just going to be the same old thing where it's just a dying sport. It's a lot of older fan base, and it is what it is. They don't listen to any outside noise. The NHL and NBA, there's definitely still a shot that they'll come back, and they can do some interesting things with playoff play-ins and tournaments and getting to the playoffs beforehand, tune-ups, things like that. So we'll see about pro sports, and the NCAA is really, I could care less about the NCAA from a organizational standpoint, but the student athletes definitely sucks, because now, like we mentioned before, a guy like Toppin he's entering the draft now and doesn't get a chance to end his season the right way. For sure.
Yeah. If you have any sports questions you want to send us, you can email the show, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com. You can also hit us up through Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. If you're listening to us live, you can see both of those there on the screen, and you can also comment on the live stream. A couple of comments. Hashtag hire Dozo, proud mama here. So we've got some Dozo supporters. Colin says that,
I know we just lost. We had like almost 10 people, and then they just all dipped out. I was like, oh, we're about to get to double digits.
Colin says that a substitute sport idea could be a one-person dunk competitions in different arenas across the country, and also that baseball deserves to die. So if you want to comment on the stream or email the show, if you're a podcast listener, if you can't catch the show live and you're listening to this after the fact, still email us your questions and send us stuff through Instagram and Twitter. We get to it, and we'll read it on the show. We'll let it build up. What we want to get to now is our top 5 bingeable television shows. So our criteria for this earlier this week, we're going to be doing top 5s every week, just as a way to add content to the show during this time of crisis, amid this crisis. So to have a little bit of extra fun. And so this week the topic was bingeable TV shows that either you can't keep your eyes off of, you have to keep hitting next, or shows that you can just watch for an extended period of time and just completely just soak it in over and over and over again. And so I'm going to give, we had a ton of submissions on this, so I'm going to read through what other people said. We'll just list them out, and then we'll get to ours. Dawn said, showing my age here, but MASH, Everybody Loves Raymond, 2.5 Men, Big Bang Theory, and That 70s Show. Kara said The Office, The Shield, The Sopranos, Rescue Me, and Big Bang Theory. Emailed ones that came in. Gabby had Fleabag, The Crown, Gilmore Girls, Making a Murderer Season 1, Orange is the New Black Seasons 1 through 3. Core said Stranger Things, last season not as great in my opinion. The People vs. OJ, The Killing, first 2 seasons, Narcos Seasons 1 through 3, and The Wire. Cameron just said Star Trek. Just Star Trek. If you need a specific series, I'd say The Next Generation, but watching them all in chronological order is my jam. Mary says The Office, Sex and the City, Gilmore Girls, You, and Heart of Dixie. I don't think we had any other. Did you guys, in any communications, Christian, because I know you were on this, do you have, before we get to our top 5s, did you have any other communiques, people giving you top 5s?
I had a lot of Office. Yeah, that was the main. I think that maybe was the number 1 on everybody's list. The most spread out show on everybody's list was The Office for some reason.
Ryan,
for some reason, do you not like The Office?
I think it's overrated.
I don't. Ryan, to be honest with you, I don't like. So what's crazy is I can't stand, because I really don't like the Michael Scott character. Like I could watch a single episode of The Office. I could not binge it because Michael Scott gets on my nerves too much.
That's what I'm saying.
And it's just too awkward for me, I think. But what's weird is I love Parks and Rec. It really makes no sense. I love Parks and Rec, but I really can't stand The Office. I don't know why.
I mean, I don't want to dance on The Office's grave right now. I will say this, that like pop culture and the internet have definitely, The Office has taken a life of its own, and I genuinely enjoy the show. It's probably one of my favorite comedies of all time, but I've seen it so many times where I don't really watch it anymore because I've seen it so many times. Like, if I would watch an episode, I'll still laugh, but there's so much content out there.
The memes are better than the show now.
I mean, I don't know about that. The Office is pretty funny and relatable, and I think the people will agree with me on that one. I think it gets a little too much love. I say it's kind of like Bacon on the internet in like 2005, where everyone was like, "Oh my God, Bacon!" Like, it's good. Don't get me wrong, and like I love The Office, but there's other shows out there, and I don't know. It's like the most popular streaming show, I would say, just generally. So that doesn't shock me at all that it was the most popular pick.
Yeah, I think it's super relatable, but it is kind of funny. But I just can't binge it. I don't know. It's just not like. When I think of TV shows, I don't think, okay, yeah, Office is like one of my favorites.
Colin jumps in with his top 5: The Witcher, Mindhunter, Letterkenny, House of Cards, and The Office. So we have Office fans. Hit us up in the comments right now that we can let this debate rage. Just watch seasons 8 to 9 of The Office. Colin says it's Michael Scottless. Oh, that's true. I know he does leave.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, it just doesn't do it for me like it does other people. Now, that's just my opinion. All right.
So you guys seem like you would definitely like Mad Men.
Oh yeah, I binged all of Mad Men.
Okay, perfect. I mean, that's one of my favorite shows of all time. But I'm starting to get a gauge of what I'm dealing with right here, and that seems about right.
My problem is that like with my work schedule, I'll have occasionally like days where like I might have a day where I work like 18 hours, and then I have the next day off. So I'll spend that day, like I'll get outside a little bit, but then I just that's when I catch up on TV. I also am used to being up till 2 a.m. working. So on nights when I should be like, hey, I could go to bed at 10. I don't. I watch TV from 4 to 3 o'clock. I mean, from 10 to 3 o'clock in the morning. So
that's what I did today, bro.
I binge watch shows because that's the only way I can get through them. And so pretty much any television show that like you tell me to watch, I'm going to binge it. I have the ability to do it. So like I could never return. I have shows right now that I'm following that I have to watch one episode at a time, like Westworld currently on HBO. But season 1 of Westworld, I binged it in 2 days before season 2 premiered. So I was able to like just blow right through it. So I pretty much binge every single television show anybody ever tells me to watch. Ryan, do you have, if you could spitball right here, I know we didn't prepare you for this, but a top 5, or if you just wanted, if you had some shows in mind.
I think I could do it off the top of the head and be somewhat successful here. So I would definitely say historically, The Office is up there for me, even though it's not really in my rotation right now. New Girl, I think, is arguably a better show and very rewatchable, lovable characters. I am a comedy guy. I don't when I watch TV, I like to be happy and entertained. Like I don't really enjoy a lot of non-comedies except for a few historical, or I do like Stranger Things, so I guess that's not, but there's some jokes in that too. I think You Should Leave on Netflix, if you've ever seen that. It's like a sketch comedy show. The episodes are about 18 minutes long. There's only like 6 or 8 episodes. You could literally watch the whole season in 2 hours. Highly recommend it. You want to talk about memes? There was this Twitter account, I think You Should League Pass, which was like a mashup of memes from that show and like NBA events. It kept me following the NBA like all season, and I miss that more than like the actual games, honestly, right now. But so what's that? So that's 3 shows. Honestly, Mad Men. I love the 60s and history, so that's like one of my favorite shows, even though it's not very bingeable. It's slow and boring. It's kind of the opposite of bingeable, but
yep,
that's okay. And lastly, throw a little monkey wrench in. I'm literally on my Netflix right now looking at shows I've watched recently because I'm a big watch something and forget the name of it guy. Documentary Now, another show that I really enjoy. It's on IFC with Bill Hader and very handsome man from Oklahoma City. Bill Hader and Fred Armisen. I got them confused. Yeah, great show. If you've ever seen that, they just make fun of documentaries. It's hysterical. Very smart comedy.
It's not in our top 5 because I just started it, but I think what it's taken over the collective consciousness of the United States and the world. Tiger King right now. I don't know where it will fall at the end. But have you guys started watching this show?
No, not yet. Well, that kind of stinks. I can't really talk about it now. But I've seen the whole episode. The whole thing. It is groundbreaking. It has I can talk about it without spoiling, and I will say this: if you were gonna get all of like the hot key buzzwords that make a Netflix or any series documentary great, really, this has it, and they were like thrown into a blender, and you were just going to drink them up because it's got everything. They've got tigers, it's got murder, it's got the LBGT community, it's got drugs, it's got.
It doesn't seem real. As unreal as this whole quarantine situation seems, and it just like, every day kind of feels like this feels like a dream, like that all this is happening. This show feels like it's not. These aren't real people. These were like out of central casting. Like, how is this even possible?
Well, that's what this documentary. It really gives me a lot of faith going forward for America that we're going to be all right. When you think about how many people there are and how many stories like this that need to be told, that. One, give us a ton of entertainment, and like that's all people are talking about for pretty much 2 weeks. And then now, like it's brought to our attention. Like I've heard about a little bit of stuff of like the animals and what's going on with this tiger ownership that like Texas and Texas and like Florida have this crazy amount of exotic ownership of animals. It's insane. Like this dude had a zoo in his backyard, and the way they run it is not very above board. Let's just say that. Yeah.
So we're gonna put me and Christian's top 5 on the screen now if you're watching along live. And so I'll read mine first. And I know I'll have to explain one of them because I'll be shocked if any of you guys had heard of this show. So my top 5, like I said, shows that I just couldn't stop watching and I blew right through, or shows that I can watch over and over again. The first 4 are shows that I just blew right through. Prison Break, a little bit of a throwback. I don't know how many people remember that show. Banshee. I have no idea if anybody out there has heard of the show Banshee, but if you want me to, I can explain it because it's absolutely off the rails. Narcos, obviously, most people have heard of that. True Detective seasons 1 and 3, blew right through, fantastic. And then I've already said it a million times, but Law and Order is just I'm currently binge watching all 20 seasons. So it's like how you have like the long con. I have the long binge. I have shows that like I pop in, somebody tells me to watch The Witcher, boom, I'm done with that in a night, and I go back to watching Law and Order like 4 or 5 episodes a day. So
do you have like a favorite episode of Law and Order?
Oh God, no. Yes, all 456 of them. Like Tom Brady said about Super Bowls, my favorite episode is the next one.
I like that line. I don't think I've ever watched an episode of Law and Order.
Oh,
I know
you gotta.
I know like some of the names from like pop culture references, like Sam Waterston, I believe, from a little John Mulaney skit. But
yep,
that is not my bag. But these are some interesting picks.
So Christian, go ahead and read out your top 5, and then we can get into some discussion here.
Sure. Yep. I went with Seinfeld, Stranger Things, which I still think, even the latest season, I was up till maybe like 4:30 in the morning on July 4th watching that and finished it. 24. How I Met Your Mother, Rick and Morty, and I'll give you one honorable mention. The League is probably one of the most bingeable shows you can ever watch.
Yeah,
big fan of The League.
Yeah, I haven't. It's like weird. Every time I try to start The League, something interrupts me. Like I start watching it, and then it's either a life event or something like work related. Or I get bogged down. I have not. I enjoy the show. I love it. I just, for whatever weird reason, I keep getting interrupted while watching that show. So I haven't finished like any of the seasons of it. Which I guess now I have the time.
It's an awesome show, but it definitely went on too long. Like it kind of, there's only so much you could do with it, and their jokes, they definitely they stuck to the formula and had like a rotation of like 9 jokes that they did a lot and kind of ran into the ground. But it was an awesome show and so ahead of its time with the fantasy football aspect, because it started in 2009, which I know fantasy football had been going around, but that was like really when it started becoming a big part of American pop culture.
Now, Christian, I want to ask you about, because you have 4 of yours are shows that were on broadcast television. So did you watch these like when they aired live and then you enjoy watching all the reruns, or did you like get into 24 like after it was done and you watched like all 6 or 7, however many seasons of it like in a row? Like how did that go?
24 was that was kind of like a family event. Now that's going back years, but we would sit down on Mondays, and it was like a few different days. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I think at one point that show was on. But we would sit down and watch that every week, and then after it was done, rewatching it, just the show was awesome, and I could sit down and watch however many seasons in a row and be fine with it.
Now I know I've watched Law and Order where literally it's the same type of thing happens every time. There's a crime, it's investigated, it goes to court, there's a ruling. So obviously it's very formulaic. But do you ever get I feel like 24 is one of those shows where like after season like with its premise like he has one day to figure it out. Like does that ever get I never really got into 24. Also because they never show Jack Bauer using the bathroom. How he never went to the bathroom once in like a whole day kind of astounds me. And there's like 7 seasons, so this is really like the worst week of his life, and it was just a little unrealistic.
Wait, did you just say you didn't watch the show because you didn't go to the bathroom at all?
Yeah.
Is that like a make or break thing for you for shows? You need that? Like that's
I lost the sense of realism, you know?
Have you ever seen Mariska Hargitay go to the bathroom in Law and Order SVU?
No, but it's not. The premise isn't.
Okay.
They cut away. There's cuts. There's never like this is his whole day.
Okay,
I mean, my aunt said
He's never. There's so many things that just don't. He doesn't do, and it's he never. Does he ever eat? Does Jack Bauer ever eat?
But you're not watching him the whole time. It cuts to other people, so he could be taking a dump behind the plants in a yard where he's at. You never know.
Okay. I mean, I'll have time now. I'll have to do a deep dive and revisit Jack 24 and do a deep dive.
All I'm gonna say is you got to find a new hobby if you're worried about people going to the bathroom in TV shows.
That is definitely like not my make or break thing for a series. Sometimes it can be good content when they go to the bathroom, but it's not oh my god, where's the shitting in this show? Come on.
That's why I love Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction is just such a hyper real event because
no spoilers, please.
John Travolta, he's on the toilet. It's just a very real moment.
No spoilers, please. I haven't seen Pulp Fiction.
No, I'm not going to give nothing away. Just John Travolta's on a toilet. That's all you need to know.
I'm just kidding. I don't care.
Have either of you guys seen the show Banshee?
No, I've only seen Seinfeld, Stranger Things, and How I Met Your Mother out of these programs.
Oh, well, you now have a list, Ryan, to check out. Christian, have you ever seen Banshee?
No. Never heard of it.
So I'm going to try. I'm debating because I looked up the premise, and the premise is like 5 sentences, but it does really encapsulate it. But I'm going to try and spitball the premise of the show. So, what is going on there? Do you guys hear that?
Someone inhaling their phone?
Oh, my bad. That might have been me breathing.
Right.
I was holding my phone and like kind of zoning out, looking at Twitter, and I was literally breathing my fat ass into it. My bad. That was like a wake up call.
It's all good. So the premise for Banshee, it starts out with a guy who's getting out of prison. He was a thief for the mob, and he gets caught. He goes to prison. The minute he gets out, he is immediately there's an assassination attempt made on his life because the mob boss thinks that he double crossed him and all these sorts of things, and because he got caught, and so he has to evade capture from his mob bosses, former mob bosses. He's trying to track down his ex-partner, which was his girlfriend/wife. He finds her with a different identity, living in a small rural town in Pennsylvania that is corrupt by its own like mob syndicate. And she's assumed a different identity and basically tries to ignore him, and she's like in hiding. He winds up not knowing what to do with his life. Like, he wants to stay there and try and reconnect with her, but he also knows there's people after him that are after her. So does he stay? Does he go? He's sitting in a bar, and these thugs come in to shake up the bar. And by happenstance, there's a man in the bar who's going to be the new town sheriff. And this sheriff is a complete ringer because the town was so corrupt they wanted to hire somebody from the other side of the country to come in and basically lay down the law. And so nobody knows the sheriff, nobody's met him, nobody's talked to him at all, and the sheriff ends up dying in this bar brawl. And so our main character, who is the ex-con who's on the run, assumes the identity of the sheriff and just reports to work the next day as the new town sheriff in Banshee. And that is kind of where the show jumps off from. It is absolutely wild. It is out of control. It is an extremely violent show. I will say that. But the plot is crazy. It's just off the walls.
Are there bathroom breaks?
There is a bathroom break. Yeah, there's a bathroom break.
All right, I'm down for it then.
That was just always one of my things I always just kind of like as a joke said about 24. Like, you never see Jack Bauer use the bathroom. How does he never use the bathroom in a day? Like, it's crazy. And then I grew up and realized that like I could go days without using the bathroom. It's okay. Well, number two, I guess at number one I couldn't go a whole day without. But at number two, there's been plenty of days where number two didn't happen. But anyway, yeah.
Now you're using logic.
Banshee is completely off the rails. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think there's 4 seasons. And it's just completely the first episode is out of this. It's off the rails, and the show just never slows down. So it's worth the watch. And not many people have heard of it. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like once you get into it, you're like, how have I never heard of this show before? It's completely crazy.
Here's one for you. If you want from Colin, because if you want pooping, now is definitely the time to start the league again. So there you go. Now, there's a theme here with you. Do you like comedy, Andrew?
Yes.
Okay, the Bingeable is all detective style, huh?
Yeah.
Very serious shows. Like when I'm thinking binging, it's like I'm sitting on my couch, I want to laugh. Like, if you had to put a comedy up there, what's like your top 2 or 3?
A comedy. See, the thing is, like, I can't do. Seinfeld has a laugh track, but.
You guys were mentioning
I find
Big Bang Theory a lot.
I find myself laughing at Seinfeld, like along with the laugh track. Like the laugh track's happening while I'm laughing, so I don't really notice it. Seinfeld would be a comedy that I'm in for. As far as I'm trying to think of like those cable shows that were comedies.
You ever watch Archer?
A little bit, not. Like I don't know why. Like when I watch shows like this that I binge. I like these heavier shows that I can just get into and get immersed in, and I'm like driven by like the plot more so than like just trying to like sit back and it's like the opposite. Most people want to escape and like and have something to laugh about and forget about the horrors of like the world. I pretty much sit down and like tune into the horrors of the world. So I don't binge watch all those other shows. I'll watch them and I enjoy them, but I don't find myself sitting down to try and like get laughs. I'll watch comedy specials for laughs. You know, like I'll watch like Bill Burr's I'm a huge fan of Bill Burr, Sebastian Maniscalco. I'll binge watch the Michael Che. His special is fantastic. Like I'll rewatch comedy specials, but I really don't I really don't binge any of the comedic shows for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of ones that you could easily.
Oh, somebody said Hell on Wheels. That's a great show. Yes, Hell on Wheels is amazing. That was on AMC.
Aunt. She's in the audience. And Schitt's Creek. That's an awesome show too. If you haven't seen that on Netflix, I've
funny. Seen some of that. Another great one. The Terror was on AMC. That one's based on. Oh, Ryan, you'll like this because you like the history stuff. The disappearance of the. Of this expedition, this Arctic expedition. Real true story. These 2 ships, the Erebus and the Terror, tried to go find the Northwest Passage in 1846, vanished off the face of the earth. They didn't even find the boats until 3 years ago. But there's been tons of historical stuff written about it, fictionalizations, and this show is based off of one of the most popular fictionalizations the book was called The Terror. And it basically ties together as as much historical fact as we have with what happened to these people and based off the evidence, and then also the guy weaves in supernatural elements into it in fiction where there is no evidence, so you have to kind of assume what happened. But all the characters in the book and the show are the real people that we know were on these ships, and the author basically said, like, okay, what do we know about all these people, and then what I'll build profiles of them based off of this, and then what would happen to them in this like life or death situation in the Arctic. So it's like as real as it can be, and then where you're allowed to sneak in fiction, he does. And then the show it's 10 episodes long, but it's because of the historical accuracy of it, it makes it like crazy, because it's kind of like the way you're saying like Tiger King. You're like, how did all this happen? Like, did this really happen? This is crazy. It's the same thing. You're like, no, these people didn't do this, did they? And you go and like Google it. Like the producers of the show were like, we challenge you to fact check us on all of this shit, and you do, and you're like, this is ridiculous. How did this happen? So The Terror, another really good show that was on AMC, along with Hell on Wheels. I forgot about Hell on Wheels. That's fantastic.
Alrighty. We had a lot of people in the comments just chiming in, talking about comedy special. Colin saying the new Tom Segura is great. That is awesome. If anybody hasn't seen that yet, he's one of my favorite comedians in the game right now. Very funny dude.
Yeah, this is why we wanted to do the top fives, because we know people are going to get involved. So we don't know yet which top five we'll be doing next week. We do have a whole list of them. We don't really have many sports ones on there yet, but we will take sports top fives. Right now, somebody gave us quarterbacks of all time. We know one person.
Can we do a quick? I think we should probably. I might have to get out of here, but we should end with a quick impromptu top five sports thing.
Sure.
Ended with a nice little sports thing. Do you have a topic, or should I? Since I just thought of that off the top of my head.
Oh, you have assumed control of the 360 Sports Show. Ryan Ole Dozo, engaged.
Well, when you're talking about the quarterbacks, I'm thinking this would be tough off the top of the dome to do best quarterbacks to never win a Super Bowl, but do you think you could?
The list is one quarterback and one quarterback alone, and that's Tim Tebow.
You were preaching to the choir. You did your research. The thing about Tim Tebow, and I think I could just, if you want to give me the floor to talk.
That is not my actual list, but I had to do it. I had to do it.
No, I'm not. But Tebow is the most interesting case study in NFL history, but another time for another day.
But actual top guys, off the top of my head, guys to never win a Super Bowl. Obviously, Dan Marino's number one to never win a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers, currently. Jim Kelly. Who are some other good ones?
Steve McNair. Did he ever win one?
No.
He did not.
McNair.
Can I give you guys one that people always sleep on, and it kind of bums me out?
Sure.
His name is Donovan McNabb.
I was going to say McNabb. That was literally the next name that I was going to say. Yeah.
Guy went to 5 conference championship games. Yes, he went 1-4 in them, but that is, when you look in NFL history, not a lot of quarterbacks have played in 5 conference.
He was sullied by Andy Reid.
Well, that's what's so crazy about Andy Reid. He has a chance now. If he goes and wins 2 or 3 Super Bowls with Mahomes, which is definitely possible, his whole narrative of his career is going to be so different. And when you look at in history at Andy Reid, it's like Bill Cowher on steroids, because his whole career he didn't win until the second to last year. And what was Andy Reid in year 21 or 20 this season? Awesome story.
I think another good list, maybe this would be, so when I taped the reveal of our top 5 for this week, I have now affectionately hung in my studio, aka man cave, aka back room of my apartment, for the 360 Sports Show. I hung my Matt Castle jersey. I'm one of maybe 2 people who own a Matt Castle jersey, me and Matt Castle. So
I saw that. That was awesome. Matt Castle. Oh man,
I'd love to do maybe if there's a list of top 5 backup quarterbacks who got their shot. You know what I mean? I guess you could include Tom Brady as the greatest one of those of all time, because he was the backup QB who got his shot. But guys like a Matt Castle, who are those guys who were the second string quarterback that got in and actually kind of made a career. Like Castle, even though he didn't win a whole ton, like he had a great year in 2008, and then obviously gets a big contract with the Chiefs and is with them for a number of years, and was still in the league for a long time.
Yeah, I think he was playing until like gun to my
last
head,
year,
I'd say like 2017 was his last year. Oh, he was last year. He's in the NFL.
I don't think he was in the league last year, but 2018. I'm pretty sure 2018 he was like a backup on the Vikings. Or no, I think was he back with the Vikings or was he on the Titans maybe?
He was with the Vikings in like 2014. I'm on his Wikipedia page right now. Yeah, Lions 2018.
Lions. Yep.
Yeah.
But what I remember about Mount Castle, and I just X'd out, so I don't want people to think I'm just reading verbatim off the internet, but when he had back-to-back 400-yard games in a time when that did not happen a lot in the NFL, and one was against the Jets, that game that they lost, where he threw the touchdown to Randy Moss to tie the game in like the corner of the end zone. I think it's one of Moss's like top 5 catches of the Pats, if you know what I'm talking about. Like
against Ty Law.
Yeah, you're right, because that's when he was with the Jets. Like I think that was his second time with the Jets, because didn't he have 2 stints with them, or was that before he left?
I think he went. He may have.
No, I'm wrong.
He may have. Yeah, he went from the Pats to the Chiefs to the Jets.
No, he did not. Ty Law went to the Jets first.
Oh, he went to
that vividly.
Oh, so he went to the Jets, then the Chiefs, and then back to the.
Or maybe not
Jets?
back to the Jets. I could have thrown a monkey wrench in there, but whatever. We're getting off track. My bad.
No, crazier thing too about that, Ryan, is he had those back-to-back 400-yard passing games. He also rushed for over 50 yards. He is still one of only. I don't know. Actually, I don't know about many more because Mahomes or brain fart here. Jackson may have done this this year, but. At the time, it was him and Steve Young were the only quarterbacks to throw for 400 yards and rush for over 50 yards in back-to-back games in NFL history.
That's a lot of yards in a game to account for. Lamar Jackson will probably do that at some point. And Mahomes, you're right. Steve Young, I'd be interested to see when he did that, what year.
Yeah.
I guess 94. That was his MVP. Like, he took over the world here.
Yeah. Anyway, we're pretty much out of time. So this is Ryan. I want to thank you a lot for coming on the show here today. If you missed the show, if you're tuning in late, everything will be up on SoundCloud and then pushed out to your favorite podcast apps later on today, so you can tune back in. Ryan, you can follow him at Doze on Life on Instagram and Twitter. DozeOnLife.com. Tons of great stuff over there for you to go and check out. Friend of the program, he talked about his ordeal challenge, whatever adjectives you want to throw in. He ate 43 McDonald's hamburgers in a day. We had tons of information about that. It was a really great segment of the show. All of the informational graphics will be uploaded today on Instagram and Facebook as well if you want to get some facts about eating 43 burgers in a day. But Ryan, really happy you could come on and be on the show and stick around for some of the sports content as well. It was really great having you.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate the time. I'm sorry I was a little rambly at times. It caught me off a fresh 2 hours of sleep, but it was a lot of fun. Stay safe during the corona.
Oh, we ramble here. It's all good.
It's all good. And again, I want to thank you for mentioning Tim Tebow without me having to. That was really appreciated. So you guys have a great afternoon. If you're listening and are unfamiliar with my blogs, a lot better of a writer than I am speaker, why don't you check out dozeonlife.com. Gentlemen, have a great Lord's Day.
Thank you, Ryan. Well,
all right, see you guys.
That'll do it for us here on the 360 Sports Show. For Christian Lawber, I'm Andrew Pezzelli. Remember to like and subscribe to us wherever your favorite podcasts are found, and email the show throughout the week, the 360 Sports Show at gmail.com, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at 360 Sports Show. We'll be coming to you on Tuesday to give you what our top 5 for next week will be. Until then, stay safe, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you later.